My wife, Rachel, gave me a sweet kiss goodbye at the airport. It was a gentle, soft moment, the kind of kiss you give when you expect to see someone in just a few days. She had that same warm, kind smile on her face that she had shown me for all 12 years we had been married. She looked at me with those familiar eyes and told me she was going to a quick 3-day meeting for her job. As she stood there in the busy airport, she reached down to fix the strap on her laptop bag. She told me she was going to be very busy with meetings and presentations, so she might not be able to answer my calls very often. I just smiled back at her, feeling a bit sad to see her go, but wanting her to do well. I wished her the best of luck with her work and stood there watching her walk away. I kept watching until her bright coat disappeared through the security gate and she was gone from my sight. As I drove home alone in the quiet car, I tried to tell myself that the worried feeling in my stomach was just stress from my own work. I really wanted to believe that everything was okay in our lives. But lately, small things have been changing in our home, and it was getting harder to ignore them. Rachel had become very private with her phone. She used to leave it on the counter, but now she kept it close to her at all times, even taking it into the bathroom. She started going on work trips more than she ever used to. When she came back from these trips, she would always have expensive gifts with her, like beautiful jewelry or very fancy bags. She told me they were just free gifts from the companies at the meetings, but every time she explained it, it sounded like she had practiced the words before saying them to me. I really, truly wanted to trust her. After being married for over a decade, trusting the person you love should be the easiest thing in the world. Instead, for me, it had slowly become the hardest thing to do. Looking back now, I see that most marriages do not fall apart because of one big, loud fight. They slowly crack and weaken because of many small secrets and tiny lies, until one quiet night finally breaks everything for good. Around midnight, I found myself lying wide awake in our big, empty bed. I simply could not sleep, no matter how much I tossed and turned. My mind kept jumping back to Rachel and her trip. I felt like a magnet was pulling all my thoughts toward her, and I couldn't pull them away. I opened up my phone and started looking through pictures online of the hotel where she said her work meeting was happening. As I scrolled through the photos, my heart sank. The place did not look like a spot for business or meetings at all. It looked like a beautiful, expensive place for a romantic vacation. My screen was filled with photos of fancy blue swimming pools that glowed in the dark, tables set with white cloths and candles for romantic dinners, and balconies that looked out over the dark blue ocean waves. It was the kind of place people go to celebrate being in love, not a place to sit in a room and talk about office work and spreadsheets. At exactly 2:47 in the morning, the quiet of the room was broken. My phone made a little buzzing sound on the nightstand. It was a message from the bank account we both share together. A new charge had just been put on our hotel bill for room service. I sat up in bed and looked at the details with shaking hands. It was for 2 very expensive steak dinners, a cold bottle of bubbly wine, and 2 desserts. I stared at the screen until my eyes felt blurry and tired from the light. I tried so hard to make up excuses for her in my head. I told myself that maybe she was just being a nice person and buying a late dinner for a coworker who was hungry after a long day. I was trying so hard to find an innocent reason for what I was seeing, but deep down in my heart, I already knew the truth. I was looking for excuses because I was too afraid to face the real answer that was right in front of me. When the clock finally hit 3 a.m., I decided I couldn't wait and wonder anymore. I opened our video talking app and pressed a button to call her. The phone rang 2 times, and then Rachel picked up. She did not look like someone who had just woken up from a deep, peaceful sleep. Instead, she looked very surprised and very nervous. Her hand was shaking as she held the phone up to her face, and she tried to force a small, fake smile. She whispered to me, asking why I was calling her so late at night. She told me she had been fast asleep, but the room behind her told a completely different story than her words did. All the lights in her hotel room were turned on bright, not dark like a room where someone is sleeping. On the table right next to her, I could clearly see 2 wine glasses and an open bottle of wine. Then, for just a tiny second, the phone tilted to the side. Standing near the balcony, trying his very hardest to stay hidden and out of the camera's view, was my best friend Jason. He has been my closest friend for nearly 20 years of my life. For a heartbeat, our eyes met through the screen. He looked like he'd been caught doing something terrible, and he quickly stepped back into the dark shadows of the room. Rachel tried to move the phone fast, so I wouldn't see him anymore. She started talking very quickly about her busy schedule for the next day, hoping I hadn't noticed my best friend standing in her room in the middle of the night. I didn't yell at her. I didn't get angry or scream. I just smiled at the camera very calmly, though my heart was breaking. I told her not to worry, and that I only had one thing left to say to her. Both of them stopped moving when I said that. They were frozen in fear, waiting for what was next. I put my face close to the phone screen and slowly counted out loud. 3, 2, 1. Right as I finished counting, 3 loud, heavy knocks sounded at their hotel room door. Rachel's face went white, turning as pale as a ghost in the bright light of the room. Jason looked toward the door like he was seeing something impossible. Another loud knock came, and a calm man's voice spoke from the hallway outside. He said he was from hotel security, and asked them to please open the door right away. Neither of them moved a single muscle. They just stood there in the silence. Rachel whispered something I couldn't understand, and Jason started looking around the small room as if he wanted to find a place to hide his body. I stayed on the video call the whole time, not saying a single word, just watching everything happen to the lens of camera. Finally, Rachel walked slowly to the door and opened it just a tiny bit to see who was there. It wasn't just the 2 hotel security guards standing in the hallway. Next to them was a woman I knew very well. She was holding a folder full of papers in one hand and a small suitcase in the other. As soon as Jason saw her standing there, he looked like he was about to faint and fall over. He whispered a name under his breath. Emily. Rachel looked back at the phone, feeling very confused and lost. I gave one last small smile and ended the video call. They didn't know that the woman standing at their door wasn't there by a lucky chance. And they definitely didn't know that I was the one who had invited her to be there at that exact moment. Emily walked into the room very slowly after the security guards checked her ID to make sure who she was. She wasn't screaming, and she wasn't crying. She was very quiet and very calm, which was actually much scarier than if she had been yelling. She looked right at her husband, Jason. Then she walked over to the table and put her folder of papers down right next to the steak dinners they hadn't even touched. She told them that for 6 months, she had believed every single lie about late-night meetings and weekend trips. But tonight, she decided she was done believing the stories. She decided she was going to find out the truth for herself, no matter how much it hurt. Rachel couldn't find any words to say to her. Jason tried to start making up new stories to explain why he was in the room, but Emily didn't listen to a single word he said. She opened her folder and showed them everything she had found over the past few weeks. She had printed out hotel bookings, long lists of phone calls, and pictures that showed they had been taking secret trips together for months and months. Then she looked at Rachel and said she wasn't sure if Rachel even knew that Jason was a married man. Rachel looked down at the floor, unable to say a word in her own defense. In that moment, the silence in that hotel room felt heavier than any loud argument could ever be. Their wall of lies wasn't falling down because someone was shouting. It was falling down because there was simply no truth left to hold up anymore. Back at our house, I put my phone down on the kitchen counter. I sat there in the dark for a long time, feeling very quiet inside. I didn't feel like I had won a prize or a game. I just felt very, very tired in my soul. Jason wasn't just some guy I knew from around town. He was the person who stood right next to me as my best man when I got married to Rachel. We had started businesses together and celebrated every birthday like family. We had made promises to always be there for each other. And Rachel was the person I thought I would grow old with and hold hands with when we were gray. Losing both of them at the exact same time felt like a very bad dream I couldn't wake up from. I had already talked to a helper who knows a lot about the law, and they told me the best thing to do was not to get into a big, emotional fight. They told me to stay calm. So, instead of driving all the way to the hotel to yell and scream, I spent the whole next morning getting all my money papers and documents organized. I moved my bank accounts so they were separate from hers and set up a time to talk about the legal steps for ending a marriage. Every piece of paper I touched reminded me that relationships don't end because of just one mistake. They end because of hundreds of tiny choices that people think will stay hidden forever in the dark. When Rachel finally came home the next evening, she probably expected me to be screaming at her and slamming the doors. Instead, she found a house that felt very empty and very still. I had already packed all of my things and moved them out of the house. All the important papers were gone from the desk, and I had even taken down the wedding photos from the walls where they used to hang. On the table where we used to eat dinner together every night, there was only one envelope and my gold wedding ring. Inside the envelope was a short note I wrote by hand. I told her I wasn't leaving because of that one video call. I was leaving because the trust between us had died a long time ago. The call just helped me see what my heart had been trying to tell me for many months. It was a final piece of a puzzle I didn't want to finish. As she finished reading my note, her phone started ringing. It was Jason calling her. When she answered, he told her that he had been kicked out of his house too. Emily had already started the legal work to end their marriage and wasn't looking back. On top of that, his boss at work was looking into how he spent the company's money, because he had been using work money to pay for his secret trips with Rachel. In less than one full day, every secret they thought they were hiding from the world had been taken away from them. Everything was out in the light. Now, almost a year has passed since that night. Someone recently asked me if I felt bad about making that phone call at 3 o'clock in the morning. I just smiled at them and shook my head no. It wasn't the phone call that changed my life for the better. It was the fact that I finally chose to know the truth instead of living with a lie just because the lie felt easier to carry. People often think that being betrayed always ends with a big, loud, dramatic scene. But for me, it ended with quietness, a lot of paperwork, and learning that liking and respecting yourself is sometimes the hardest thing you will ever have to do. I eventually built a brand new life for myself. I didn't do it by trying to forget what happened, but by promising myself that I wouldn't let those bad memories ruin my future happiness. When I look back, I still remember the look on Rachel's face when I counted down. She thought I was just trying to get back at her or hurt her, but really, I was just counting down the moment the truth finally walked through the door. And once the truth is in the room with you, no lie, no matter how much you practice it, can ever make that truth leave again. I am finally at peace, and that is worth more than any secret.